Save 8% off your order at TrueTechTools.com by using the Shop Talk discount code. Well, there's our sign right there. We must be on the air. Good grief, here we are. Oh my gosh. Hello, everybody. I'm just sitting here at my desk like I do every time while this is going on here and looking around what has accumulated onto my desk. So here's what I have on my desk that's been here for I don't know how long. We have a Chipper Jones rookie card right there. That might be worth some money, actually. Should probably find out something about that one. And of course, my other one I thought was valuable at the time, Brian Jordan. You win some, you lose some, guys. It's all right. Chipper Jones might be worth some money. We had some questions in the chat about the show's rating. This is interesting right here. Nice play on words, too, if I can find it. Move back up. It is going to be G or R tonight. This is what I was talking to Nathan about beforehand. It's going to be G or R. There's some kind of thought out there like this is going to be some kind of crazy event. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be insane. Okay, so R on that one. All right, let's get a different question. R. Howdy, Susie. Let's go through our chatters here. We have Susie. We have Jessica coming in from school. So it's you work at Kalos, Jessica, and you're at school. I'm impressed. Or you going to school at Kalos. Kalos is like a school and a workplace, as far as I can tell from Brian's videos. So Ty Brannaman is teaching the class tonight. All right. Well, you can ditch class and come watch this. He'll still be there when we're done. There you go. That's right. Chipper Jones from the 90s. I can name all the Braves from 1992, and after that, every major leaguer gets a little bit fuzzy. Okay, guys, just touching the bases real quick here. We had a podcast come out. Let's see, today is Tuesday. We had one come out yesterday. We'll have one more out tomorrow. So if you're not subscribed to the podcast, HVAC Shop Talk, you can find us on any podcast app, I do believe. And if you can't find us on one, let me know because I made a mistake and not put it on that one. So it would be very helpful. And what would be helpful if you do enjoy the show, leave us a review and write a line or two about why you like the show. That's always helpful, and that's free. You can leave a review. And also what is free is to leave a like on the stream if you enjoy the stream. You don't have to do it now because like I always tell people, how do you know the stream's going to be any good yet? So wait till the end and leave a like. That's probably why I get less likes by the end, or the stream is bad. Could be either one of those two things. By the end of the stream, you should have decided whether this was worth your time. Leave us a like, okay? That would be awesome. Okay, if you want to follow us, you can follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, HVAC Shop Talk. You can become a channel member to support the show, or you can support us at subscribestar.com. All those links are in the description of this video. As I said before, I have Nathan Orr tonight. This is the first time I've had Nathan on the show. I've had his brother Brian on a couple times over the years. I think over the last 3 years. He's been interviewed by me, then me and AK, and I think way back in the day, Ralph and I interviewed him. That was an interesting show. That was back before anyone edited anything, had any microphones, or just any skill whatsoever, except for Brian. Brian did, but mainly our end is what I'm talking about there. So we're going to get on with it right here. We're going to have Nathan after the break here. Take a little break real quick. But right before I do that, these are the prizes we're going to give away tonight. Okay? So check that out right there. We have a hat. We have a HVAC tactical, what they call a neck gaiter face shield. some coil cleaner from Viper. We got some stickers. We got some nylon. We got some pins from our buddy Gary, who sent them all the way from California. And tonight we're going to give away prizes by doing a quiz on the Dead Sea Scrolls. So hopefully you guys know all about the Dead Sea Scrolls. That's how we're going to give away these prizes. If you don't know about the Dead Sea Scrolls, you can get this great book entitled The Dead Sea Scrolls. All right. So that's good. So you should be reading that stuff anyway, because it's really interesting. I haven't read the book. I'm just going to be honest with you. So, all right, we're going to be right back after this, joined by Nathan. We have a lot of fun tonight. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you in just a second. Well, hello there, Nathan. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm super happy to be on the Cowboys of HVAC podcast.
You had to do it. Look at that. Hey, I guess it's going to be R. R is what it's going to be. G or R, it'll be R. Cowboys of HVAC. What's funny is that we had a guest the other day. It might have been Don Gillis, who actually shared the Cowboys of HVAC podcast and said, check out the new podcast. And I guess he thought he was going to be on that. So that's actually pretty funny. And of course, if you go try to find it, it's not there anymore.
Especially from Don, because he is, I'm pretty sure he's not up to any hijinks. He's a pretty delightfully straight-laced fellow.
Yeah, I 100% believe that was just a mistake. I don't know how he found the Cowboys of HVAC link at all, since it should be non-existent any longer, but it's funny. So that's how we're going to open the show. Nathan's not in the bathtub, but he starts with the Cowboys of HVAC. So we, win some, lose some, like my Chipper Jones thing. So
right.
Well, welcome to the show, Nathan. I know it's the first time, man. And your brother actually kept saying, you should talk to Nathan. You should talk to Nathan. I think it's because he didn't want to talk to me. He was kind of like a diversion.
That's kind of what's happened, for most of our careers is the things that he's not particularly interested in. They're like, oh, you'd be great for this. And his way of convincing you stuff's the truth is just to say it a lot of times in a row until you're like, well, maybe he seems to really believe it. So I guess I'll do it. Right.
So I wonder how many things in life have ended up that way. Is that why you're a service manager and you're not doing podcasts and stuff like that?
I guess. I mean, it stands to reason. I'm pretty easily tricked. So it's possible that I got tricked into it.
I don't believe that for 1 minute. But why did you never go after like the podcast angle? Because whenever I was talking to you, it's like you don't even have like the equipment to do the podcast stuff at your house. So that never lit a fire underneath you trying to do something like that?
I don't know. It just wasn't my thing. Not that it's not either, it's fun when I do it, but sort of, he kind of took over that. And then I was always busy doing other stuff. And I live in the middle of nowhere. So it's not like I can have it set up in my house because there's not good enough, internet for that where I live. I live more in the middle of nowhere even than Brian. And so, there's always the time commitment of doing it somewhere else
Yeah, that's no good. That's no good. So you're at the office right now then?
Yep. I was heading back from a job up norther of here on my way home. I swung in to do this.
So is that pretty typical? And I appreciate that. Is that pretty typical that you work beyond like 9 to 5, so to speak?
Yeah, pretty much. Like 9 to 5 hasn't been a work schedule that I have kept in a long time.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about where you are right now. We'll kind of go back in time. So what is your position? And what's your day-to-day look like?
So I run for us I think the current term we've settled on is heavy commercial, which is basically supermarkets. I sort of switched into doing that about 4 years ago and left residential to be run by a guy who worked for us who was probably a better job manager than me, and that I'm pretty good at getting everybody on board and starting up a new thing, but streamlining stuff, I always get bored and ADD kicks in. And so on our general contracting side, they were like, hey, we pay these supermarket guys crazy money and they seem like they're nothing special. You should do that. And So yeah, jumped into that about 4 years ago, and that's pretty much exclusively what I manage now.
So Brian said, these guys are nothing special. Nathan would be perfect for this.
Right. That's that. I imagine that's how that goes. Like, you're no worse than all of these guys because they're terrible.
Hey, Brian, do you want to do this? Why don't you call Nathan?
No, it's actually funny. That is a thing that sometimes, because I can have, don't necessarily put it out there. Maybe that harshes my street cred, but I've always had high standards for stuff. And so one of the things I've always used to kind of calm myself back down is to remind myself how bad everyone else is at their job. And so, like, yeah, this didn't go perfectly, but wow, there's some other really terrible people doing it. So
yeah, you came from residential. You ought to see that quite a bit, actually.
Right. Don't feel too much shame. It'll be all right.
Well, now what's it like going, if you're a residential guy and you're going to heavy commercial, you're doing supermarket stuff. Now, I was a residential guy. I know nothing about the supermarket stuff. So how did you prepare for that? How did you train, or did you already have training along the line?
We had done like some stuff, mostly air conditioning, but like it syncs up to supermarkets where they have like reheat off of the refrigeration and stuff. So we'd have to pipe some stuff in. And, my secret little, or not so secret since I say it publicly, my secret little vanity is that I can learn something as fast as anybody. Like, come on, give me some, I can figure it out in a short amount of time. And so we had done that. I had kind of seen the equipment and paid attention while I was there, and maybe ran a service call or two when people needed backup help. I was like, oh, it shouldn't be that bad. I think I've got this, which I did not have that. It almost went very badly through the first 6 months. But you did, you picked it up and went from there. Hired some people who knew stuff that I didn't and needed to know. And
out of curiosity, do you read a lot? Do you watch training videos? How do you learn?
So I've always, it's a little bit of the Sherlock Holmesian thing where like you have a good ability to ignore stuff that doesn't matter. And so, yeah, I do read a lot, but it's generally very specifically targeted to a thing that I either just did and didn't know what I was doing or know that I have coming up. But I do read quite a lot. And when I'm on a particular topic, I'll fall into a thing. So it's not out of ordinary for me to read 500 to 1,000 pages in a day going over a thing. Like, I need to understand what's happening here or what just happened yesterday. And so it's not necessarily as disciplined and formatted as some people, my brother included. It's always a little bit more like, whoa, that happened. And that doesn't make sense based on my understanding of things. So I'm going to do research until I find, find a solution that works for me, that makes everything make sense again in my head.
It's like maybe reactionary. You run into something, it's like, well, I'm never gonna not know what this is again.
Right. Yeah. Like this thing. And because I'm really, really terrible at memorizing anything, I have to understand what's happening, or there's 0% chance that my retainage is awful. And so I have to read until I understand. Read or do, then read and do and read and do until I understand. And then once it's there forever.
That's a good point. I would read things a long time ago thinking that, I need to start making an effort to become smarter. That's a good word for it, I guess. And I would read things, and I'd read like 20 pages, 30 pages of like, what just happened? Okay, what did I just read? And like, nothing will be there. Nothing will be there. But, now when I read, it kind of clicks into place. It took a long time for me to come to that spot where it would click into place for me. I never read anything until here in the last year. Oddly enough, I couldn't do it. Not even high school. I would somehow pass tests and just read like the Cliff Notes. If you recall those, they'd print out Cliff Notes or something like that.
Yeah.
You go on the internet, in the very infancy of the internet. I was never good at that. So I always liked the people that were able to read and seem to enjoy it, even though that sounds kind of nerdy. I think that was cool that people could do that. And now I guess 41 is the year that I'm going to be able to do that too. So that's a good thing. So when you came into supermarket, HVAC and R, I guess you were doing both. You were doing the HVAC units and the refrigeration units. What did you come in as? A technician?
I had been like the service manager for our residential side. And then sort of gave that up to step in it was all projects at first. There's no real service to it. Now I did bring a couple guys with me who were better at assembling stuff and brazing and welding and stuff. And so, right, I was supposed to be sort of the technical side on those projects, the one who would be able to say what we actually were going to be doing from a make it run standpoint. And so, yeah, that was the idea anyway, that I was going to step into that and figure out what it would take to, and then initially start just on projects where we were the general contractor as well, and then slowly work my way into the service side and doing projects as a standalone entity.
Which is where you are now.
Correct. Yeah.
It's very exciting. It sounds like a good part of the well, let me ask you. It sounds great, but when you compare it with the residential side you worked in before, which one do you like better? I'm sure you could go back to residential if you actually liked it better. But what are the pros and cons between the two?
I mean, the pros and cons are that on a day-to-day basis, you aren't interacting with money. I mean, obviously there is still making sure that stuff stays profitable, and that can be tricky in its own right. But you aren't arguing with, Mrs. Sims about, well, this was $60 last year and it's $68.50 this year. Why did that change? And so there's not really that interaction. Now, that interaction is also the negative of it, is that you don't get that those little micro doses of positive feedback of, you showed up, I was hot, you fixed my AC, it's cooling, isn't that great? Because Florida in summer, who doesn't like the AC guy when you just fixed what wasn't working? Where once you switch into this, literally everything is, from the customer end, everything's negative all the time. And now it shouldn't be, because their product was melting and you stopped it from melting, but they're having a very bad day by the time you show up always. And because they've had that interaction on a regular basis, they aren't necessarily grateful that you showed up. They just wonder why you weren't there 5 minutes earlier than whatever amount of time you showed up in. And so the reaction time was new and interesting. The equipment itself is more fun, because I had gotten bored of residential equipment. Where, I remember sort of hitting the point where when I would be out and helping clear the service call, the service calendar at the end of the day, something would come in sort of interesting. We're like, oh, it's an infinity damper system that isn't opening the right dampers or something. I'm like, yes, this is something that won't be boring. Because I'm fairly ADD. Being bored is like the cardinal sin. Just boring stuff is what I don't like. And so from that standpoint, the equipment itself is fun. There's more to learn regularly. There's little micro doses of knowledge that you can learn and get better. And you can see this result in equipment immediately. Wow, these compressors were cycling. Now they aren't cycling as much. That's energy savings, that's whatever. And so getting that positive feedback from the actual work itself was there more, but not necessarily from a customer base. And then the hours on even the work itself, it's not as physically difficult as residential. You're never in an attic. About half of your time you're in the air conditioning. Occasionally there's some backbreaking work to be done, but even then it's not like doing, it's not like you're going to do an attic change out where you change all the ductworks in the middle of summer in Florida. There's not that same level, and there's not that same regular grind where, now maybe it's not everywhere, but for us in Florida in summer, where it's like, there's a call. Why are you behind? The schedule's not clear. It's not really like that. But the constant immediacy of it, there's no regular hours. Because they expect you to be there in the same amount of time if it's 2 a.m. on Christmas as 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. There's not really any, so there isn't so much a set schedule. And even then when you're doing projects, it's all night work. It's all somewhere else. And so that was a hard, I've always been an insomniac to begin with. And so then doing that with an irregular sleep schedule has been a tough adaptation from that standpoint.
Do you like working under pressure?
Yeah, no, I mean, that part's fun. Where there's, that's kind of the thing, that there's, if you don't, I wouldn't recommend doing what I do, but that feeling of hey, there's a thing and you need to get it fixed and there's a running clock. That's fun. There's not, I mean, it's the thing that would make me bored in residential, right? You're rushing, but you're rushing for no reason. Okay, so I'm rushing because there's another call behind this. There's really
nothing's on the line.
There's no skin in the game.
Cases of food that could go bad, and then
right,
tens of thousands of dollars, basically.
Right, and so I kind of do like that side of hey, something's down. We need you here now. You have to fix it. You have to fix it with what you have on hand. And so make sure you have on hand what you would need to fix generally almost every problem. And then if you don't have exactly what you need, how do you make it work for now to get it by until you can get what you need? All of that appeals to that. I don't know, that MacGyver-y mechanic instinct.
Well, the word we had for that was what you mentioned at the beginning of the show. We used to call that cowboys of HVAC, where you would make something work that in a way that it wasn't necessarily designed, but you can get by. Now, is that something that you enjoy doing? That's something I always like doing, when you could make something work in an atypical way, in a non-UL listed way, but it would still function.
Yeah, like the thing we do regularly that feels so naughty when I do it is you'll have something where the controls are down for whatever reason. And so you're literally jumping out contactors to run compressors full bore. And there's no other piece of equipment that you could get by doing that for a while. Like that would be like, oh, that's just what you do. And your customers are even like, yeah, well, why are you waiting? You know, that controller's down, just jump out the contactors, get this running again. So everything's cold until you figure out the rest. And still every time I do it, I'm like, ooh, naughty.
And I'm just never going to come back. And when I come back, it's going to be 400 degrees below zero Fahrenheit, of course. As I learned from reading my book the other day, that's not possible in Celsius. Science, everybody. It's great. I had to turn my mic off there for a split second. My son was behind the wall hitting the doorstop as hard as he could over and over again.
The little door stops.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame him. That's endless hour of entertainment.
He loves it, and he only does it when I'm streaming. It's really kind of a great trick. He knows when it's most critical that he not do it. And being 2.5 years old, he says, this is the time. Bow, 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 bow.
I've decided I like that kid.
I like him too. He's pretty cool. I can see myself doing that, actually. So
right.
Can't judge. So let's talk about that for a second. You know, I have a kid behind the wall. I have 4 kids, and he wasn't around when I was in the field doing a lot of work, but my other 3 have grown up with me being in the field. And they always tell me that I was gone all the time, even though I felt like I was home a fair bit of the time. How many kids do you have? Do you struggle with this same sort of thing? I know you do, because basically you told me did in your thing, but
no, I've got 4 kids, and yeah, it's the same thing. It's one of the things that they'll fall back on if there's an argument and they're trying to just say the thing that hurts you, which kids are great for. They'll fall back on the like, well, I mean, what does it matter anyway? You're just gonna leave.
Man, that's so bad. Children.
Yeah, no, I mean, right. I'm raising savages, and I literally am racing savages. And so no, that's definitely a thing they go back to, and is the hardest thing to balance, because it is sort of a limited resource, sort of that kid time.
What are the ages of the kids, if you don't mind?
So they are 6, 8, 11, and 13.
So you do have one teenager, so that's where that great animosity comes from, I could tell then.
No, he's
really?
No, he was born. I tell everybody I feel like I'm raising Brian with him, and that he is very sincere and he is very serious all the time. And so he might say it, but if he said it, which would hurt me more, he's not. It would be the second one, the daughter, who would say it like just to get you in an argument, where his would just be more like he wants to have a talk to you, like, Dad, do you think this is the best way that you're using your time? I mean, are you gonna
oh man, that sounds very parental in nature.
No, he literally sat me. Well, we were talking just about stuff, because I was talking to him because he's older and he likes girls, he likes whatever. I was kind of counseling him, like, look, there is, when you're dealing with different people in different segments of your life, you want to show them your best face for what they want, and you never want to be false to yourself, but you want, not everybody, you don't need to just show them 100%, because sometimes they aren't going to understand, because he can be prone to just being 100%. The first girl that he thought was pretty, he walked up and was like, you're really beautiful, and it makes me feel weird in my stomach. I was like, hey, bud, that's an aggressive go-to move. You shouldn't probably keep that your whole life. Maybe, I don't know.
I like that. Bold.
And so I was going through that with him, and he was like, well, he's like, I see you do that. Like, you're different at home when you're with us kids, or you're with mom, or, you're out like socially, or because he's come to work with me a few times. He's like, I see the way you are with your guys. They're all really different faces. It's like, do you ever know which one is the real you? And,
man.
and I was like, never mind, you go to bed. you're fine.
That's quite a conversation explaining the different faces of a human being, and because you know it's true. Because when you go to work, you don't act like you do when you're at home with your family, and you don't act like you do when you're with your friends. Those are three separate faces. That's so funny that the kids would talk about that. My kids never do that. They do cause me pain. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's only him. The rest of my kids, like I say, are pure savages. You got all like the good genes out first go. And right, my youngest has already punched a cop, which was it's a life experience I haven't had, and he's had it 6.
Well, I would love to know why your 6-year-old son punched a cop. That's worth about.
Because we had stopped. I had taken him to get some stuff to fix our tractor, walking through a Circle K, just a gas station chain down here, buzz marketing for Circle K. And I was like, hey, let's go in and get a drink, because that's my dad move, right? Anytime one of the kids goes out with me on a special thing, hey, we're going to go, we'll get you some chips. You can pick whatever drink you want, because, I'm not responsible for their health. My wife is. And so we go in, and this big old, he's had to be 6'5" cop rounds a corner and doesn't see him because he's really little, that child, and runs into him and knocks him over. And so he like pops up and like, bang, punches him. He's like, you watch out for me. And like flexes on him a little. And
was he arrested?
No, the cop was like, that's quite a boy. And I'm like, well, why would you do that? He's like, he could see me. Like, he should pay attention. I'm like, well, I mean, I am jealous. Life experience I'm probably never going to have, but we probably shouldn't do that so much.
I would add and he tased me twice, and I think that would be perfect.
Right. He could add it, is it really a lie if you tell a true story, but you just add a little flourish at the end? I don't know.
Let's not even answer it. Let's not even answer that question. So I have one here from Joe Shearer, who you probably met, I guess, down at the meetup.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe says, Nathan, tell your daughter's career day at church joke. Now, can we tell that here? Is that something that, Joe wouldn't bring it up if we couldn't tell that here?
Right. Joe is a good Christian man. He would not try to make me say anything. So at church, they had asked, which is maybe a reflection. It's for sure a reflection on my parenting, because my wife bears no fault for this. But they had asked what everybody wants to do when they grow up. And I think her quote was, she wants to sell crack to kindergartners or something, or some version of school children.
Why would she say that?
Because it's funny. I mean, it is funny.
It is funny, but why would she say that though? Where did that come from that she would even say that?
I'm sure, it's something that I said at some point, like, if any of my kids become drug addicts, it won't be funny at all. But there's that thing of like, oh, why don't you go smoke crack? And then when they got older and they say it, you're like, well, you shouldn't say that so much, because there are people who really do struggle with that. That's just a thing. Daddy's being crazy. And so then that particular child latches on to that sort of thing. Like, now I know one that can get people. This is something, this should go in my permanent memory bank.
See, if you'd only been at work, you would have missed that, you would have missed those special moments.
Right.
Which is funny. Joe's got 2 kids now. He'll understand that. His daughter's older, I think.
No,
I don't remember how old she is.
His kids have got to say things like that. Having met Joe, maybe he's just better at turning it off than I am. But his kids have to say things along those lines a little bit. That thing.
I'm sure. Well, one of his kids is very young, as I recall, but he had a daughter that was older, so she's probably giving him a lot of trouble, I would assume, because I have a daughter, and it's nightmarish. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It's nightmarish. I love her, but also I would like to kill her at some points. Wait, let me emphasize that enough. I would like to kill her at some point. There we go. That's better. Okay.
Was the at some point as in like, I don't know, depending how you took that, it can be quite menacing.
Well, St. Peter said a day was like 1,000 years. Just take it like that. It could be one of those two.
Sure.
So, all right. That's close. And that's Christian Hour on Shop Talk. Closing out. All right. So we'll be back on Friday. Don't worry. So let's go back in time a little bit. We talked about where you are now. I'm kind of curious about how you started up. And I did the math wrong. So you started actually a couple years before Kalos started.
Correct.
And so why in the world did you choose to be an HVAC person? Why would you do that?
For that same reason of, bad at planning until something comes up. I had just, I had decided I was going to get married, and because I had been dating a girl for a while, and so I was like, well, I'm going to get married and I need to make money. So Brian
far,
does
so good.
this.
That's a good
Right.
plan so far.
Right. So there's no fault in that plan. And I was like, well, Brian does this and he could probably, show me how to do it. And this seems like he doesn't seem to hate it. So good enough. And that was, so he spent after work, I don't know, for about 3 months, twice a week, I would come over and he would teach me a little this and that while I was finishing out my last half year of high school. And then, the day after I graduated, I applied at the largest residential AC company in the greater Orlando area.
And you were getting married at this time too?
I had got engaged shortly after I got hired. And so then got married about 6 months after that.
So all your big life stuff you're trying to cram into like the little short time after high school, sounds like.
Yeah, sure. Why wait?
I know, right? I mean, might as well have the kids out of the house early, is what I'm saying. Good plan. No, but it is, that seems because Brian was like that too. He was young and getting married. So was that a thing that were your parents young when they got married too?
Yeah, parents, grandparents. It was sort of I don't know that they ever like spoke that they were anticipating it, but we were also surrounded by a pretty decent amount of, relative to the average successful marriages. And so I just think in really, because both of our sisters are younger than us and they both got married young too. That we all just sort of figured this is what you do, right? You find someone, and if you like them and you're like, oh, this will work out.
You get married.
That's right. You just go ahead and get married. Right. And then you just make babies and then eventually you stop making babies. Just how that works.
It's a simplified look at life, because most people in high school, they make the babies, then they get married. So,
well, right. That did get spoken into our lives quite a lot. Was that, like we were raised on that. You don't kiss before you get married. There's no dating. There is courting.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Brian kind of told me a little bit about y'all coming up, but the anomaly was in the story was you, because you were in public school in his story. So you could play sports, as I recall.
I still did pretty much all of my classes at home, but I did submit my work through it was like the infancy of online school. And so I did technically attend that. And then I would go to like a few classes a week, or I would go in to work out. And then I played sports there. It was really weird because I was, like I said, sort of new back then. And so there was, even like right when I was graduating, there were still like some teachers that are like, it's really weird. I've never had you in any of my classes. Why do you leave every day at like 10:30 in the morning? And I'm like, well, I don't know. It seems fine to me.
Were you the only one that did that went out to the school?
At that school? Or of my
or any school? Was everybody else homeschooled completely?
Yeah, my sister after me then did sort of the same thing. But right, I was sort of the first, and for the school, I think I was the first person to do that there. And so they weren't super accustomed to it. Like they did always forget to schedule anything with me. So sort of a funny thing is I found out later that I don't remember what it's called. What's it called where you're not the valedictorian, but you're like the second?
Salutatorian.
And so apparently I was that at my high school, which nobody let me know and didn't let me know when my graduation was. So I didn't show up and they didn't know that I wasn't showing up. So apparently I got like announced and stuff. And then they were just like, okay.
That's interesting. Well, that goes to show you that if you homeschool and you're focused and your parents, I remember Brian telling me they were pretty rigid with their moral standards, so you will be successful. Whereas let's just compare. When I was a senior in high school, public school all my life, every single class, I spent a lot of time drinking. And I slid from honors to below honors when I
mean, graduated. I did drinking too. So there's that. I mean, that wasn't exclusive,
At least I have to be drinking more for my story to really work, because there's a certain amount of comparative quality.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. I wasn't drinking.
Cat's out of the bag, Nathan. Never mind. At that point, I started doing hardcore drugs. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it's just so funny because if I would have gone to, because I know a few people who've done homeschool, and it's like a whole different environment. When I could think of public school, because we rode the school bus all my life, and there would be people, just to be frank, there'd be people having sex on the bus. There'd be people smoking pot on the back of the bus, starting fires. This is all from experience. This was not made up. This is my school bus. So it's so different. And that's what I was talking about your brother so long about that, because it really shapes who you are as a young child. What is permitted in life and what is not permitted. It's interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no, I will say that was pretty rough. Going from not doing that to sort of attending the public high school. I can't tell that story. That would get R-rated. But there was just a lot of things like references and stuff that I didn't know at all, because I was still not allowed to watch PG movies when I was playing for the varsity football team.
Wow.
And so there was just like, right, a lot of references that I had no idea what anybody was talking about. So you just sort of would play along like, oh, sure. Yeah, I know what that is. I'm cool. I know bad thing.
Yeah. Good one, Carl. Yeah.
Right. But that didn't really, most people sort of understood that I didn't know what they were talking about. And so that was the source of some good humors.
Yeah. I like, Steve has pretty much summed up, your marriage proposal. She made your stomach feel funny, so you'll marry her.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's true. There's worse reasons. Like people have gotten married for way worse reasons.
Oh, sure. And most of those reasons from high school usually involve an infant.
Right.
From my high school, it did. One of my good friends, that's how he found his way to marriage. Now divorced. Shocker. I shouldn't say that. Well, they're divorced now. It is true. But I think it's better to go the way you did, even when it's really, really young. I mean, I wasn't as young as you. I was 23, maybe. So I guess that feels much older than you now when I think about it. Okay, let's get off the marriage stuff. Let's go back to HVAC before we lose everybody. So we'll save this for a different show. You got the job at the big company. Now, when I put a poll up on my channel, this unrelated to this company, I'll say, well, perhaps it's unrelated. Did you ever work at an unethical company? And like 63% of the people said yes. So when you say big company, I know there's a lot of people say yes when it comes to big companies. Was that big company like that?
I don't know that I would say they were unethical on purpose. I just think they were a company that was set up to make money. And so it was all piecework. Even service was piecework based on like job codes or repair codes. And it wasn't set up, that reward system wasn't set up to reward super honest, super high quality work done people. Now it wasn't not set up to do it either. Like, so they promoted doing stuff the right way, like, at least by mouth. I never saw anybody say, oh, you need to upsell anybody, or none of that was really promoted. It just wasn't the system. The way it was designed was for whoever, if you could sell more items per service call, and maybe skew those codes in such a way for more expensive things that pays you more bid time, that is how you made the most money in the least amount of time. And there wasn't really any way of getting subtracted for callbacks or anything. And so quality didn't really matter.
Did you see that happen a lot? Do you see people kind of take that ball and run with it to make more money? I guess it's commission-based stuff when they sell a whole bunch of stuff. Do you see guys, I know the company doesn't intend, or maybe they do or don't intend for you to do something like that, but do you see the individual techs taking that ball and running with it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a mix, right? There's some people who the system, just because there's not a great system for follow-up or really evaluating anyone, who the vast majority are just not great at their job, right? It's a huge company with a huge customer base. They were and still are a marketing-based company. And so you aren't getting referrals based on word of mouth. You're getting your referrals based off of, you did all of the initial installs in new track homes, so your stickers are on the units. You advertise on TV. You advertise in this. You advertise super low PM contracts. And so you're getting your foot in the door. And so you have this massive call volume. You have to bring in whoever you can bring in. And so most people weren't even competent enough to cheat the system, if that makes sense. They just weren't great at their job. Not bad people, nothing else, just not great at their job. And it wasn't set up for anybody to care that they weren't.
Now, let's contrast that with Kalos, because they're pretty big now too. So how do you keep that from happening at Kalos? Because sometimes it's like a big machine, like a government style machine. It's so big, it's kind of hard to tell what's happening at the fringes. So how do you protect yourself from that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going through that right now because my segment has grown a lot, but we'll stay even with residential. It takes, I think the buzzword around here is intentional. It does take intentionally selecting and building managers and technicians and even initial hiring processes for people who it does matter, and then putting in processes and systems that sort of make it possible to notice who is doing good work and for what reasons. And then deliberately setting out to reward that, even if it maybe didn't make the company the most money right now, that it will in the long run. And so it is, as much as anything, there are systems you can put in that help, but it is a culture thing. There has to be that culture of people who want to do good work for the art's sake, or want to take care of customers for an internal value system. You have to have a culture that rewards that. And I don't know that there's any, right. I don't know that a system in of itself can help, but the system is only as good as the culture that surrounds it, really.
Absolutely. Remind me, because I forgot, what does Kalos mean? Do you remember? I
Well,
figure you would, but I don't want to put you on the spot.
So Kalos, at one point, my father had decided he wanted to try his hand at interpreting the Bible from biblical Greek into English himself. And in the way that he does, he really only latches on to specific things that he thought was interesting. And so he found this word kalos that he thought meant integrity. And it kind of sort of does, but it doesn't really mean that in any modern Greek. In modern Greek, it means like perfection of form. But it was supposed to mean integrity. That's what he was looking for with it, was integrity, but like structural integrity.
That's pretty impressive to try to translate Greek. And then
it wasn't successful. So it'd be more impressive if you successfly did it. To try your hand at anything is not necessarily impressive, because I could be like, I tried my hand at nuclear physics. It went poorly.
Isn't it strange though? I mean, when I hear the story, I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive. It's as if the attempt justified a reward completely separate than the failure.
I mean, and it represents a certain value system, right? That you would attempt it and dedicate any time to it. And he did get where he could, he knew a handful of words.
Just might as well let the Bible translators do it. It's probably easier, and they're probably more accurate. That's what I'm going to tell myself. So I don't
it's a dead language, and so it's interpreting it at all is very difficult. There are people who spend their entire lifetimes doing it, and they're still like, maybe it means that.
Yeah, my father, I don't know Greek, Latin, any of the languages that came from that biblical time period, Aramaic, whatever. But my father actually took Latin in college over and over again, so much so that they created a course so he could take it in college to learn how to speak a language that nobody wants to speak. It's very interesting. Although I guess when you're doing genus species stuff, it comes in handy for that. Not that
it supposedly works if you want to learn other languages. Like if you learn Latin, it's the root of a lot of languages. I've heard that like
True.
If you have your kids really young and you teach them Latin, then if they want to learn other languages later on, with the exception of like Icelandic,
right, like the Romance languages,
there's going to be some roots there and make it easier for them. So maybe some positive there. Although to get really, really good at it, right, I don't really know the point.
Hey, but hold on, but not Icelandic.
Right. Icelandic has no root language in any other language, is my understanding.
I'm not
that it is the singular hardest language to learn.
Well, I'm going to stay away from Icelandic and most other languages, if not all of them. So, all right, we've established that Kalos has perfect form, maybe integrity as well. So,
right, which is where, I have to be shaped like this. It's perfect form.
Would you like to stand? I mean,
right.
You're actually going to stand. Look at it.
This isn't just for the ladies. No, it's to represent the company.
Well, I guess if you did an interview in the bathtub, you probably don't mind standing fully clothed.
Yeah, no, I don't have any shame anymore about almost anything.
Now, okay, that's a good question right there, because when you come into something where you're trying to learn a trade or anything in life, there's a certain bit of apprehension you'll have because you risk failure. So is that a true statement? Did you lose that at some point whenever you just accepted that you had to lose that to fully learn something?
No, I would say that transition did and is still, as I struggle with the business side of this thing that I'm doing, is burning out the last vestiges of personal vanity or or arrogance that you have, or any shame does come along with it, though. Like, as you lose any amount of arrogance, which is the positive, maybe you do lose any shame, and you're like, well, I don't care. I'll get naked in public. It doesn't make any difference. Like,
that's the boundary you're looking to cross. I've been a little scared to get naked in public, but now that's gone.
Right. No, like, I used to, if I, dropped a deuce on the side of the road, I would feel shame. Now I'm just like, it's happening,
That horse is doing it. Yeah.
Right. Like, good. It doesn't make any difference.
What a visual of all the things you could possibly think of to illustrate the point. Dropping a deuce on the
Well,
side
I've also
of the road.
done that a lot. So
it's a personal
right.
story.
No, right. That was more personal. Just that. Right. That is the thing that I used to occasionally have to do and felt shame. Now that I have no shame, nothing. It doesn't even ruin my day. I come home and I'm missing one sock, and my wife says, "Oh, baby, you had a bad day." I'm like, "It was a great day." Sure.
I never put on a sock this morning. The day was fine. Yeah. Well, everybody let those images sink in. I wish there was a picture we could show, but we can't because we'd be demonetized. Not that we make much money anyway. So you have perfect integrity. You are true to form and not afraid of your form. And you get a job at Kalos. You're working there. Now, as I recall, the company was started by your dad and Brian. So when you go into that atmosphere as not the company owner, because I'm the middle son
Right.
for my father, I was not in charge of anything. And I feel like I was in the same position as you, except on a smaller scale. We had a smaller company, but it was my father, then my brother, then they would argue about how things should be done. And I would just kind of watch. How was it like coming into that situation, dealing with your brother and father who outrank you, basically more your brother because brotherly, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it was always interesting because also they're both like classic type A personalities, right? It maybe doesn't always come across in his podcast, but Brian can be very intense. And my father the same way. And so there was definitely some rows between them. And so for the first few years while we were growing it, and before I was really in charge of anything, I was just the guy who would run overnight calls and sometimes go fix stuff, hopefully. And so during that, I always, there was that sort of like, I'm like, hey guys, please stop the fighting. It's all right.
Was that really,
This is
was that
fun.
your role for real? I can't imagine that, no one, I guess I know present you dynamic with Brian, and I don't know where your father is in the company. I guess, is he retired now?
No, he's still actively the majority owner and president. But he mostly runs and always has mostly run the general contracting side. The actual trades and services were left to us, and he did the sort of general contracting and customer relations on that end.
Do you want to be where they are eventually in that sort of role, or do you like your role better?
I don't know. That's always the question, right? Is that and that all, maybe I'm just bad at planning, but I don't
let
really
it
know.
happen. Let's just
Right.
let it happen.
It's that sort of, because you see things like, oh, I could do that. I would be good at that part. But then there's always other parts of you're like, oh, that part there. No, I would be bad at that. That's not something I'm good at. And so, yeah, I don't know really. It's not something that I've planned. There's sort of that thing of, I imagine you just sort of take on the, hey, it's the only good part of Frozen 2. But in Frozen 2, when they say just do the next best thing, I identified with it strongly. I feel like that is.
All these guys have seen Frozen 2. I can tell you that for sure.
Anybody with kids has seen Frozen 2. Right, you've seen it, and they say do the next whatever. The rest of the movie I didn't like. Frozen 1, masterpiece. Frozen 2, terrible. And but the do the next best thing, I was like, oh, that's very much my motto. It's like, don't really plan, like, yeah, maybe you try to plan 5 years from now, but for the most part, just do the best you can. Or, I mean, I always hate that phrase because nobody does the best they can, but do close to the best you can for what's there to do right now, and then see what happens later.
I like that. It's a very middle child sort of motto right there. I like that a lot. But Brian gets a call. He's going to become head of the universe of podcasting. I don't know, coming up with a title for him. And he says, Nathan, it's your time to rise here. You take over this company. You're going to run it now. Dad's retiring. You've got the whole thing. Would you say yes or no?
Well, I mean, you do it because that's what's in front of you.
Right. So it's as simple as just, this is a good opportunity. Let's just do it. We'll find out
right.
what it's going to be like when we get into it.
Somebody has to, and whoever else does it might be worse than me, and I might not like them. So there's that. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, that's already kind of happening, right? That Brian has turned over a lot of the day-to-day things, and he manages the corporate side of it, and then to not just me, but other people that work here, some of them probably better at it than me. It's different tasks and roles have been handed over to, his brother-in-law is here sort of in that role. My brother-in-law is here in that sort of a role. And then both of the brothers-in-laws that married our sisters are here in those kind of roles. And so since the company's grown as you go, I don't think it would ever be a hand over everything to one specific person. It would be like, well, you're all managing now more than the whole company was 6 years ago. And so it just sort of gets passed off on that level would be how I imagine that would go.
Is now when you talk about all these people now, is one of those, I know Bert's a character that works here. Is one of those Bert?
Right. Bert married our baby sister.
Okay. All right. Trying to put the pieces together because you hear names and you see the videos where there's various ones of you. And I watched a couple that you were in too, and we can come back to that as well. So I guess Bert's the only one that shows up on the social media side. The other guys are just family members.
Yeah, I mean, so Jesse, who is the service manager and starting to grow out of that and even more on the residential side, who I kind of turned it over to when I left, he's Brian's brother-in-law and one of my oldest friends. So he shows up on a few things, but he's a very serious fellow. And so very much the opposite of Bert. And then, right, Bert is probably the most larger than life character from Choice. He does enjoy that. I love Bert a lot. For the other day, we were talking to him about like our issues or whatever, because we've known each other for a long time too. And he was like, yeah, one of the things that I don't know that I like about myself is if I'm in a group of people and they stop talking about me or paying attention to me, I'll do something to make them pay attention to me again because I really like attention. And I liked it a lot for the pure self-awareness of it. Because I think a lot of people do that on accident. We're like, no,
Yeah.
Bert, it's purely on purpose. He really does enjoy attention quite a bit.
I do like the honesty of that. I mean, I'm gonna have to talk to this Bert one day. Bert.
Yeah, no, Bert's self-awareness and honesty is really beautiful. It is a beautiful, beautiful trait to just be like,
that.
yeah, that's what I want. I want people to pay attention to me. And so if I have to do a silly dance or pretend to drop everything out of my truck, or I'll do it, man. I'll do it to get people to bring them back in.
Oh, actually, I want to ask you something. Whenever I have guests on the show, I send out a little thing to get a little information. You're aware of this, and everything was answered in all seriousness except for 2 items: strengths and weaknesses. And I don't know. Now my phone's ringing. That's interesting. Strengths and weaknesses. Now, why those 2? Because they're the first 2 as well. Did you go down 2 and say, "Well, I better start acting serious at this point," or why didn't you answer those 2 seriously?
I don't know. It's just like strengths and weaknesses, right? I don't know. Like that's like an interview question that you ask people, and like,
you're right.
What are you going to say? And so I don't remember what I answered, but I probably answered my stock answers, which my strengths are my legs, which is true. I mean, I can kick I'll kick the heck out of something. And then like my weakness is my arms, which especially in relation to my body mass, I mean, one pull up is really, really stretching it.
You can do a pull up?
Maybe.
I'm so jealous already.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And so, right, my stock answer is my strengths are my legs and my weaknesses.
I wish there were people
arms.
over here be like, he can do a pull up. I'd tell them. That's pretty good. So, okay. So it is an interview question. It's one of those typical things. It's like, all right, now where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Well, because everybody always says, like, you say a strength where like you're trying to compliment yourself, but in a false, humble way. And then in your weaknesses, you're trying to say your weaknesses, but you're not actually going to say the one that's like your secret anxiety. Like nobody's going to put that out there where you're like, what is your weakness? And you're like, well, my weakness is that sometimes I lose focus and I do stuff that doesn't matter. And sometimes I'm just scared at night while I'm laying in bed with extreme anxiety that I didn't pay attention to my kids, even though I knew that was the most, like, who's going to answer that? Nobody. I mean, maybe me, because I'm doing it right now. But
is that the answer though? Is that the actual answer?
I mean, maybe not with that false sincerity that I was giving, but something along those lines, right? That like, I get distracted and I get distracted in everything. And so sometimes I'll spend so much time and effort doing stuff that matters 0%. And waste time for things that matter, for things that are genuinely important, whether it's work or kids or wife or whatever. Like sometimes I will lose track of a serious conversation with my wife where she really needs my attention to respond to a text from an employee that's just a funny meme. And not because I made any value decision there, but just strictly because my phone buzzed, and that's what you respond to.
It's like Pavlov's dog. Buzz, look, buzz, look. You just have to look. And I'm
Well,
assuming the employee was Eric Melee. Is that right?
No, Eric doesn't really bother me ever.
His
Just a
memes
shame.
were incredibly depraved.
No, we won't go into depraved memes. That's the point of.
I don't want to see it, whatever it is, because I've already seen Eric's, and I can't go back from that. He said, although though he must be reformed now, from what I hear, but yeah, he used to be different.
Right.
That's neither here nor there. Yeah. Okay. So, but you were divulging all this great information about yourself.
No,
so, which were weaknesses. Weaknesses. So you're talking about weaknesses, but they're weaknesses that are actually they are hidden compliments. I lie in anxiety, wondering how to better serve my family. It's a compliment.
No, but it's not really like, I lie in bed wondering, did I serve my family well? And the answer is no. I just drank vodka and watched Bob's Burgers until I fell asleep. That's not. There's no like
There's room for improvement.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely some. The answer is never like, no, you did a really good job today. I was actually telling someone my internal monologue at night, and they were like, you swear at yourself in your head a lot. And like, I just assumed everybody does that, right? Like everybody else lies in bed and they're just like, you fat piece. That's normal, right? Like that's healthy.
I think that is relatively normal. It depends. The healthy part depends on the severity, probably.
Yeah.
Depending on what's going on. Because I think most people are pretty critical.
Depends if you change, right? If you're just being critical for whatever sake, then there's no positive, right? You should just be, you've always met that like wonderfully delusional guy like the tech who's like, I never had a callback. And unless you're going to actually get better and not get callbacks, it's better to be that guy. Just if you aren't going to improve, then just be self-delusional and just feel like all of your 5 divorces were because those ladies were crazy and your kids don't like you because kids today are terrible people. Like if you aren't going to get better, just delude yourself and be happy.
Kids are terrible people.
Take the blue pill, right? That's the blue pill is ignorance.
I don't know which one goes out of the matrix and which one goes into the matrix. I can't remember which one's which. It was a great movie though.
Right. Whatever it is, unless you're going to like fix something once you're out, just go into the matrix, enjoy it. It's great.
Ignorance is bliss. In other words. Okay. Well, there's truth to that. So, okay. But what's a strength? I mean, what's a legitimate strength when people call you or call upon you, they're looking for you in particular. Why are they looking for you?
So from a work standpoint, and really a lot of it maybe goes into other things. I would say I am a good diagnostician. I'm not necessarily a craftsman or anything else, but give me multiple inputs and enough access to information, and I can figure out why something happened. And that's really the only part of it that I enjoy from this business is that sort of like, hey, this happened. What's the story? What led to this? What happened? So that part is a strength. And then sort of surprisingly, I think to the online presence I deliberately put out, is that I do genuinely /care about almost everybody after a 2-minute conversation, which can occasionally be a negative because the same thing, because I'm not great at making value judgments on who I should do that or not invest in on that level. But right, that it's a good strength with customers and employees, or whatever it is that I do genuinely care about, not just how are you doing right now, but I can derive secondhand pleasure from someone else's successes. And so, yeah, I mean, if I'm being more honest and comfortable complimenting myself, which is not generally a strength, that would be something that I would see as a strength that I have, is that I'm genuinely happy, even if it doesn't mean any positive for me that something good happened for somebody else. I do experience almost the same level of happiness that I would if it was me.
Well, I'm going to be very simplistic and say, that's nice. That's really nice. Why make things complicated when they don't have to be? So, well, we've gone about an hour here, and I know we have to wrap it up here because I'll begin to tire, and eventually, because I am 41, will wither away into sleep on the couch, which is probably a pretty good estimate right there, about an hour from now. So, okay, this first show here, you've never been on the show before, and I'm telling you, you've never been on the show before, and you'll come back again, and we'll have a little bit more of a targeted conversation. Some of the things that we had spoken about and discussed were, being Christian in the trades, which I think will be a great discussion. There's a lot of guys over there in the chat. I see Jessica, I see Steve. They'll really love that conversation. There's a few guys that won't really like it at all, but maybe we'll tune in and check out what we have to say. And we can expand upon some other things. We can go into the specific part of the trade that you're in. If you're willing, Nathan, we'll make it happen. Okay.
Sure.
And what we'll do is, I'll get up with you after the show about but you don't have internet at your house. So we'll have to work through that. So you have to be
right. The scheduling is a little.
Okay.
All right,
we can work that out.
That was the weird popping noises in my bathtub interview. Was the internet cutting in and out was giving some odd distortion.
Well, that's a relief.
Right.
That's a relief. Okay.
I will say, from the being a Christian in the trade standpoint, though, I am a fairly profane Christian. If that's any enticement there. Well, to anyone who wouldn't normally pay attention.
That was going to be one of my questions, maybe at the beginning of that, and we don't have to get into that now. But on your previous interview, I remember your tagline and your name for that interview. I'm curious about how that goes along with Christianity in the trades.
What? Do you remember, I remember what it is.
You do remember what it is?
Yeah, I do remember what it was.
And it's interesting, but I know there's some comedic purposes for some of the things that maybe you do and I've done in the past and stuff, which you might not necessarily think is a very Christian way to act. So we'll get into that later. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. Okay. That's funny. I wanted to ask you about that. I forgot to ask you off the air, but I will do that next time. Nathan, I want to thank you for coming on with me. I've had a really good time. We're going to give away a little something here in a second, but I'm going to let you go. Let you get back to your house. And I don't know how far away are you from the
about an hour.
Holy crap. Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry. An hour. Good grief. All right. Well, do you have to go there every day because you are management? So you can just go out to a job site instead of
to the office? Right. I'm maybe only in the office 1 or 2 days a week. So
okay. Yeah. For podcasting purposes, no doubt. All right. Well, for this day anyway. So I want to thank you. Go ahead and get on the road, get back to your family, and
it was fun. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go, Nathan. I really appreciate it, man. I'll see you around the next time we do this, which will be a whole lot of fun. Guys, we're going to take a break for just a second. And when we come back, let me see what I had planned. I had our giveaway. Let me put that up again. Where is it at? We have our stuff right here, our Viper stuff, our hat, our face shield thing, neck gaiter. I don't know. Neck gaiter sounds silly to me. That's face shield. Okay. I've got some pins there because everybody's a big fan of writing. We have some nylon. We have some stickers. And when we come back, we will give those away. So I'm going to duck out here for just a second, and I'll see you guys in just a second. Refrigeration Technologies makes some of the best HVAC chemicals around. And that includes wet rag heat blocking putty that prevents your vital system components from being damaged while you're brazing. Also, there's Nylog, gasket and thread sealant, a variety of uses including sealing up flares, gaskets, and other HVAC joints and connections. Last but not least, there's Viper Aerosol Cleaner. I use it on evaporator coils. It foams up beautifully, does a great job cleaning. So if you need anything in the HVAC chemical arena, choose Refrigeration Technologies. You can find out more at refridgetech.com and purchase at truetechtools.com. Okay, guys, we're going to have a giveaway. I'm going to go over a few things here real quick. And the giveaway is going to be for people that are chatting in the chat. So if you haven't chatted yet tonight, go ahead and chat. Keep chatting for the next few minutes, and that'll show up in our giveaway because I see over here we have 11 eligible winners based on, we have Clint, Comfort Diagnostics, Craig, Duckworker, Greg, Steve, Jessica, John, two Johns, White and Harold. Reliable HVACR, and I'll just keep chatting, see more popping up there. Yeah, keep chatting. All right, I see Santa Claus is here. Santa Claus, what's up, man? All right, thank you, Eric, saying good show. I appreciate that. This show was just to kind of get to know Nathan. I've never talked to him before tonight, just via messaging and stuff like that. I want to talk to him. He seemed like a very interesting character. I was glad we got to sit down tonight and talk. I feel like next time we can kind of branch off from where we were tonight, getting to know each other and go on to one of the subjects like Christianity in the trades, which I think will be interesting. I know a lot of you might be like, well, I don't know if I want, that's not really my thing. I think you should give it a shot. I think you'll enjoy it. I think it'll be a lot of fun for you if you give it a try. Let's see, what do we have? I think we stay PG-13 or lower, maybe something like that. Thank you, Craig. I really appreciate that. Always remember, if you want to support the show, now is a time that if you enjoyed it, put a like on the video. It helps us out a lot. Put a like on it. Make sure you comment on videos after they're uploaded. It always helps out. You can become a channel member and all that good stuff, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show. Okay. One question I got was about skill trade up, and I think that was Corey. Actually, that might have been asking about skill trade up. Might not be. I think it was Corey. So skill trade up was, we're going to do it so infrequently now, because right now I'm just going to do it whenever I have like a nice big item to give away, but we have like a championship series to take care of. And I've been trying to figure out what we're going to give away. And I think I've almost kind of, one of the NAVAC tools, maybe the recovery machine is what we're going to give away. So, and that's going to be a nice, sweet, I mean, that's a big old prize. That's a really nice prize. So I think we're going to do that, but I'm going to do it after one of these shows on HVAC Shop Talk, because the Skill Trade Up channel has been used so infrequently now. We'll probably just do it on Shop Talk and continue to do it every month or two or something like that. It doesn't really warrant having a separate channel. At that time, I was going to do it every single week, but it turns out that those prizes are so small. It doesn't seem like it's worth it. So we're going to do it a little bit differently. So, but that's a nice big old prize here. And like you see Nightbot in the chat over there saying sign up for live stream notifications. That's a great thing to do as well. I'll text you right before the show starts with a link to watch the show, so you'll never forget when we're doing lives, because it won't be on the same night every time. It's Tuesday, Thursday is going to be a good bunch. This week is Tuesday, Thursday. We have Jamie Kitchen on Thursday from Dan Foss, but it might not be that way each week. We have a lot of stuff that goes on here at the house. We have a lot of medical stuff because my mother-in-law is living here. So we have to factor in what we have to do during the day. And I adjust the show schedule based on that. So it might change. I won't say it's going to stay regular in any way, except for our Men with Issues show on Friday night. So, all right, let's keep chatting. We're going to pick a winner in just a second. I'm going to put it up on the screen again. I think I said everything I need to say there. We have Viper products. We have a bunch of cool stuff right there. And once you win, go ahead and email me, and I'll put that up too. This is the email you're going to email your information to, your address and the name of the winner and all that good stuff, all your information right there. So contact Zach. That's me. All right. Nice. Nice on. Okay. All right. That's a spirit right there, John Harrell. Any day, I don't care. Hey, this schedule's going to be perfect for you, because that's exactly our schedule. Any day could be possible. It's going to be weekdays, though, and the weekend I'm going to try to stay as, off work as much as possible. We'll see how that works. All right. So let's pick a winner here. We have 19 eligible winners, and I will announce that skill trade up thing. I haven't picked the day yet, though, because I am going to go on vacation to the mountains, so that's what I'm waiting on, seeing when that's going to fall. And here we are. Our winner is, speaking of, John Harrell. John Harrell, you are the winner. So what you do is you email me, hvacshoptalk@gmail.com. Let me know your address and put your name on there and say, I won the prize, Zach. This is the greatest day of my life. Something along those lines. I'm not going to tell you what to write, but that might be a good idea. So let's see here. Let me, Steve says, Zach, I need stickers. I have some stickers, and maybe we can, I can't give like every single person all the stickers, because I think we'll run out. I don't think we have enough. Maybe next time. Hey, let's give away a packet of stickers too. We'll do that tonight. But remember to email me. Always remember to email me. LOL. All right. One more winner. And John Harrell, don't forget to email. Did I mention that? Okay. One more winner for some stickers. And that's going to be our buddy, Bob Reddington. Bob Reddington, you won yourself some stickers. If you already have stickers, just let me know, and I'll kind of put something else in there besides the stickers. Okay. All right. Guys, it's been a nice show tonight. I want to thank Nathan again. I didn't know he had to drive an hour. I feel kind of bad. That's why we did it earlier, because he kept saying we need to do it, 8 o'clock would be nice. And we'll definitely do that. The show might air at 8 o'clock sometimes. Sometimes we do it at 9. It really depends on the guest and what I have going on. So it won't ever be beyond those points. Typically, it'll be between 8 and 9 for a start point. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to get out of here. I really appreciate it. And I really thank you guys. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for everything you've done watching the show. This will become a podcast a little bit later on. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the HVAC Shop Talk podcast. And it comes out I think, a couple times a week. So we had one yesterday with Zach Desjardins, who is quality HVACR. We're going to have one tomorrow. And then the ones you see this week will show up next week, more than likely. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one.